frickin' bonus here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Main Event Marks podcast. I'm your host, Troy, and joining me for this bonus show, he's Jacob Grondy. What's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Jacob, you are a podcasting veteran. I know you've been around for quite a few years, done quite a few different podcasts. Why don't you tell the marks out there a little something about yourself?
Well, just like you said, I'm Jacob Grondy. I do have a new show called Curtain Jerkin, where we dive into different AEW, NXT, New Japan, and I review Main Event every single week on the show. We focus heavily on the first match on every show, but we kind of talk about the overarching storyline aspects that happen in the main event and everything too. But there's a full rundown of the first match on every show we review on Curtain Jerkin. We have a big one dropping Thursday that's going to cover GCW, Beyond, New Japan, AEW, NXT, and WWE.
Well, that's definitely some unique stuff there. You've always got some unique takes on your podcasts, so it's refreshing to see that sometimes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I know you're on social media. How can people follow you?
On Twitter, a lot of people are following me on there at JG Pro Wrestling. Yeah, hit me up. NW Bros on Facebook. There's not a lot of people following me on there, but I'm part of this Facebook community, NW Bros. Pretty awesome stuff there. And then on Instagram, JG Picture Taken. I'll appreciate a follow on Instagram too. Twitter, it's popping off. Facebook and Instagram, I need a little help, guys. So reach out to me on there.
Awesome. Sounds great. And I believe I'd reached out to you about hooking up, doing something together, a little bonus content, because you always bring the goods. So you had suggested doing a review of the very first SummerSlam, and I was like, you know what, I need a bonus show for August. That would be absolutely perfect. Because while there is a lot of meat on the bone as far as the very first SummerSlam back in 1988, I don't know. I would really have to dig for some news from the time, and I figured I want to get into the event itself, the meat of the event. Whereas if anybody listens to the podcast itself every Wednesday, then we do news, notes, and rundowns, whatever. And while we do focus on the event, we don't focus heavily on little details here and there. Whereas here, we're breaking down just the event. So there's more we can talk about here. I think we can go in long form with the matches and stuff like that more than anything. It's a great opportunity to do something a little different. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a confession right off the bat. I've never seen SummerSlam 88 before this.
Oh, yeah, me neither. Not all the way through. I definitely didn't know the storyline going into the main event as much as I did, but I highly enjoyed it. Most of the stuff I watch and review is current wrestling, so it was really cool to go back and watch this stuff. Not this exact show, but this was exactly the stuff I would rent from Blockbuster when I was a kid. I was growing up in the 90s, but then they had a whole section of wrestling that you could go back to and rent, but it was all a bunch of stuff from the 80s, and it just kind of took me back from when I was a kid renting these videos, I wasn't alive during this time period.
Right. Yeah. Same here. I was born in '90, so I missed all this good stuff. But yeah, with the WWE Network, it's cool to be able to go back and watch all this. And yeah, like you were saying, I was a kid. Every time my parents let me go get something on my own from the video store, I'd always get wrestling tapes. So, and if anybody listening doesn't know what a tape is, Google VHS. That's all I'm going to say. So that's how old I am, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
It's cool that it's on the WWE Network in full form now to be able to see all this. And like I said, I've never seen it before. And while I wasn't crazy about this show as a whole, it's still cool to go back and witness history with this being the very first ever SummerSlam. For anybody who is a first-time listener here and just sampling main event marks, we're all retro all the time. And this month is obviously heavy for SummerSlam. Me and my normal co-host Greg have covered SummerSlam 2015 because it was the biggest SummerSlam in history to that point, and we were physically there in Brooklyn for it. But we're also covering another New York SummerSlam this month. We're covering SummerSlam 1998, which also took place from MSG.
We'll return after these messages.
Now, back to our program.
Diving into the actual event itself, SummerSlam 1988, the tagline was where the Mega Powers meet the Mega Bucks. They had another, it wasn't really a tagline, but we'll get into it here in a minute. The date for the event was August 29th, 1988. It took place, like we said, from Madison Square Garden, New York City. The attendance was 20,000. They made $355,345 off the gate, and the pay-per-view buy rate was at 4.5. A 4.5 buy rate, especially in 1988, was pretty good. I don't know what people are pulling in nowadays. I'm not hip on, all the buy rates, and especially with WWE going to the network, buy rates are low. For those of you out there, I've used a lot. If you're new, I use a lot of reviews from the Wrestling Observer, but I also have my own reviews, but I throw in there stuff that I call him Uncle Dave, stuff that he says.
He was working for Yahoo Sports at one point, and someone who was high up in the company of Yahoo was asked who the best reporter was, and he actually said Dave Meltzer. So he has recognition beyond just wrestling dirt sheets, I would say. It goes into just general journalism. I'm a fan of his. I enjoy him, but I also like him so much that I'll listen to someone make fun of him too. It's kind of funny. I enjoy the nuance of his opinion and thought process, to the point where when people trash him, I kind of get what they're saying and think it's kind of funny, kind of like if you're roasting him a little bit more so than kind of trashing him.
Yeah, and let me just say, as a person, I'm not. If I roast him, it's not as a human being. I don't know the guy, but some of his opinions, I kind of turn my nose up at, whatever. But my co-host Greg, he absolutely just cannot stand the dude whatsoever. So
yeah,
But starting off, Uncle Dave called this show, quote, more brutal than the Bunkhouse, which I guess is saying a lot, because I don't think the Bunkhouse Stampede did all that well. Overall, he called it, quote, the most forgettable show in the short history of pay-per-view, and describes it as, quote, everything it was advertised to be and less. That's harsh.
Pretty harsh, but when I hear him say it, it's I would say it's true. It's definitely a catch show, and that was kind of why people were there. They were stoked to see the stars, but once they saw them, they kind of wanted them gone.
Yeah, this was not the NWA. I'll say that. And at the same time, though, Greg and I just got done on the podcast. If you guys want to go back in the archives, we reviewed the 89 Flair Steamboat trilogy, but we didn't review the matches. We reviewed the events they were in. And I'll tell you what, man, most of those were maybe 2-match shows, and everything on the undercard was pretty long, boring, and nobody really cared. So I will definitely say, go check that out, and you guys can form your own opinion on it. But right off the bat, when me and Gene Okerlund, they do the opening, and he does a voiceover, says, the WWF, what the world is watching. It kind of gave me chills. It was a cool opening for 88.
Oh, for sure. Definitely added to the overall feel, which I think, Meltzer may have on the matches, but this was definitely just a pay-per-view with feeling there to bring you into that one match that they were pretty much selling you on.
Oh, yeah. And then after that, I always dug the WWE, even to this day. I dig their openings, the Then, Now, Forever, or the old Digital Open, the Attitude Era, and stuff like that. But then right after that, you get hit right in the feels with the old SummerSlam Open with the WWF production theme for SummerSlam. Friggin' loved it.
Gorilla Soon and Superstar Billy Graham on commentary definitely got me there too.
Yeah, I will say this. I was a little shocked because I've never seen Superstar Billy Graham on commentary. And, well, I'll get into it with this first match here. The first match of the night was the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond, versus the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid. They had Matilda at the time, their little pet bulldog. This match went for 20 minutes. the pro-American crowd that just booed the Fabulous Rougeaus, they just blew their load for the British Bulldogs.
Hilarious. Yeah, I did think about that. You got a Canadian and a British guy defending America's honor here.
Well, you got the British Bulldogs against the Canadian team, and the Canadian team that they're waving like tiny American flags and claiming to be, what was it, the Good American Boys or something? I can't remember what it was. I swear to God, dude, this is where I have the note. If Billy Graham said brother one more frickin' time, I was going to lose my mind. You think Hulk Hogan? Okay.
That'd be a great drinking game. If you want to watch SummerSlam 88, every time Superstar Billy Graham says brother, you take a shot.
Oh, hell yeah. You'd be dead by the end of this from alcohol poisoning. It was just ridiculous. He said, you think Hulk Hogan said brother a lot. He's got nothing on Superstar. He used the word brother like a comma. And
true.
And then another commentary note. I said, I swear to God, if Gorilla Monsoon said, it's a happening, one more time, just during this match alone, I was going to crap a brick. Like, I told Greg, because I was texting him while I was watching this, I said, Gorilla, because apparently that was like another tagline for the show was, it's a happening, which I don't understand. And Gorilla Monsoon just like jackhammered it in there like Vince McMahon style. And he said it like 2,000 times during the opening match. And I was texting Greg, I said, I want to get a DeLorean, build a time machine, go back to 1988, buy a ticket to the show, front row, so I can hop they were up in a balcony. So I can get a balcony seat, find where they are, run over and smack the crap out of Gorilla Monsoon.
Huh.
It was so annoying. But as far as the match goes, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like fantastic, I didn't think. But I'll say it was a great match by WWF tag standard.
I love this match. You can definitely tell Davey Boy was the one that the WWF was behind, and you can look at history and see like he's the one who stayed. So you can tell like that's the one they were trying to push the whole time, from Gorilla Monsoon to the crowd reaction. And I think they did a really good job putting him over. I think Davey Boy gets lost in the shuffle when you talk about the Hart family with Owen and Brett, and they've been Dynamite Kid. But I think Davey Boy really showed out here in the opening contest. One of my favorite matches on the show now, looking back after watching the whole card. And then it led to a time limit draw, which is something I don't think you would see definitely in the first match in any wrestling show today.
Yeah. What was funny about this matchup as well was, if anybody knows the backstage feud between the Rougeaus and the Bulldogs, especially Dynamite Kid, because I think this was right before, I want to say, I can't remember, it was Jock or Raymond that had a roll of quarters in his hand, and when Dynamite came around the corner, he sucker punched him right in the teeth and knocked his teeth out.
What? Damn,
yeah, you never heard that?
No.
Well, it's
after this match.
Yeah, I think it was after this, and the reason for it was because Dynamite Kid kept relentlessly, I guess, Jacques, for those that don't know, Jacques is the more boisterous of the two. He always was. He became the Mountie. Whereas Raymond, they said he never really, he didn't mess with anybody. Nobody ever had a bad word to say about him. And he never really stuck up for himself because he didn't want to fight. And not that he couldn't fight, just he didn't want to cause any issues. But Dynamite Kid had the little big man syndrome, and he was on roids and everything. So he kept messing with Raymond over and over, and he threatened him. And he was like just being nasty with him. And finally they got sick of it one day. And I think he did something, I can't remember all of what he was doing, but basically he was making the Rougeau brothers' life a living hell. Like just constantly bullying them. And finally they got sick of it, and they had a roll of quarters, and they were in the catering area, and they saw Dynamite walking down the hall. And as soon as he came around the hall, he socked him right in the mouth and knocked his front teeth out. I guess right after that, then Vince McMahon was like, all right, enough's enough. No more ribbing, no more bullying. You're done. And they said that was kind of the downfall of Dynamite Kid after that because he was never the same.
Yeah, I mean, pretty sad story with him, but I guess if he was being a dick, you can't really blame him for hitting him upside the head with a roll of quarters.
Yeah, you got to stand up for yourself at some point,
Exactly.
And, I mean, they split up, I think, because Davey got tired of dealing with his crap.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he went to Japan and killed it, and but I mean, at one point he started treating his family like crap, lost his legs, and then passed away. So he was a really great wrestler, but tragic ending, and it's pretty ironic how big of a fan Chris Benoit was of his, with almost inside and out the ring.
Yeah, and I didn't find out until recently that front drop kick into a kip up front drop kick off the top rope into a kip up that Daniel Bryan does. He got that from Dynamite Kid.
Oh.
So he wrestles a lot like Dynamite Kid too.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But really, to wrap this up real quick, in the end, the Bulldogs do their tag team gorilla press into a flying headbutt. Basically, Davey picks up Dynamite and throws him for a flying headbutt onto one of the Rougeaus. The other one is distracting the ref, so he didn't get the pin, and the bell rings for the time limit draw. The Bulldogs get angry, and they chase the Rougeaus to the back. Billy Graham suggests they, quote, finish it in the shower, brother.
Huh.
It was kind of a weird line. Uncle Dave complained about having to spend $15 on this show, because apparently that was the price point in '88. He complained about having to spend $15 on this show and said that this match was, quote, perfectly fine. But you gotta think, like I said, this was not a terrible match. I gave it 2.5 stars. So did Uncle Dave. For WWF standards, this was a really, really good tag match. But if you're think about what the NWA was doing with tag teams in '88. I mean, you had Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, LOD, or Road Warriors, whatever. And, this was good. But it was good for WWF, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm biased.
No, you're right. You got some workhorses here, but at the end of the day, it was WWF. They were doing more cartoon than sport, honestly, at this point.
Right. Speaking of a little bit of cartoon mixed with some sport, they showed a clip up next from WWF Superstars of Wrestling where Outlaw Ron Bass jumped Brutus and Barber Beefcake with his spur and a whip, and he chokes him with the whip, and then he drives his spur into Beefcake's forehead, busting him open. In the process, Yep. And in the process, he also threw a WWF referee out of the ring. To somewhat block out the blood, they put a giant red X on the screen with the word censored over it.
Yeah.
A bunch of baby faces hit the ring and saved Beefcake and chased Bass out of the ring. This was back in the day where all the baby faces got along and all the heels got along.
I like this stuff. I've been watching a lot more of the more graphic hardcore stuff than my other show. So seeing kind of something that might be on one of those shows here in WWF in 1988 was pretty good. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I mean, come on. He's never been my favorite, and I don't think he's ever been anyone's favorite. He was on TV for so long. The Zodiac, Brutus the Barber, the Disciple, everything.
He was Booty.
The Booty Man.
Yeah. He was the man with no name.
Yeah, like I'm not a fan of him watching, but I definitely have respect for him as someone who's, out there in the workforce working, trying to make a buck. He did it for decades.
He's one of them guys that nobody can understand why, but he's always got a job.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why he always had a job, brother. But that's another story. Up next, speaking of somebody who, why the hell do you have a job? It was Bad News Brown taking on Ken Patera. This went about 6.5 minutes. Patera looked like Days of Future Past coming to the ring. I was just like, man, it looks like somebody took 1975 and transplanted it into 1988.
Yeah, for sure. But it's always cool to see an Olympian out there wrestling. I put up a poll on Twitter. Who is your favorite Olympian not named Kurt Angle? in wrestling, and it was like Chad Gable, Mark Henry, Jeff Cobb, and Ken Patera. Ken Patera looked like he was running away with it, but then Chad Gable took it from him right at the last few hours. But people still talk about Ken Patera to this day. For him to be on that pole and do so well kind of shows me that he's well respected for people that were watching a lot during this time.
I'll be real honest with everybody. I don't know a lot about Ken. I mean, I know who Ken Patera is. I've never watched a lot of his stuff. That era was kind of, you don't get it on the WWE Network at all. There's not a ton of footage of it, and I never really followed his career closely. I know this was his comeback, I think, after he got out of prison for, I think he threw a chair or something through the front window of a restaurant. He got thrown in prison for it. But yeah, so this was he was trying to come back. This match though, man, Bad News Brown jumped him as soon as he gets in the ring and just whoops him. Brown dominated most of the match, but Patera does eventually lock in the bear hug. In the end, Patera misses Brown in the corner, ramming his shoulder into the post, and Bad News hits the Ghetto Blaster for the win. Uncle Dave gave this 1 1/4 star. I gave it 1 star. What say you?
I give it, like about like 1.5, 1.4 up there, like a little bit above a 1, just for the nuance of of it being in Madison Square Garden. I guess gives it up to a 1 for me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't really care about Bad News Brown too much, and I really didn't care about Ken Patera in '88. So I don't know. I was just like, it's a 6.5 minutes, throwaway match. Up next, man, Mean Gene Okerlund's backstage interviewing the Mega Powers with Miss Elizabeth. Hogan is sweating bullets in this promo, I noticed. He's very shiny. But he says he can feel the power of the MSG crowd. Savage says that he feels the electricity in the building. He says that Miss Elizabeth is their secret weapon. And then they do their weird-ass handshake.
I love it, man. Shake my hand like you hate me.
Yeah. Well, I love that Mega Powers like, lock it in, man. This next match was another short one, but I don't know. I liked it better than the last one slightly just because of the guys who were in it. But it was Ravishing Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan taking on the Junkyard Dog. It went for 6 minutes, 18 seconds. Women in the crowd were taking pictures of Rick Rude as he does his stripper routine. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was the archetype for Robert Roode, for Val Venus. I mean, he was truly a character of his time period, and this was his peak. They mentioned idol wrestlers a lot in Japanese wrestling. I think Rick Rude was like an idol wrestler for this time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's something, man. And he was different at this time. And he had a very unique body style. Like, he had like 0% body fat. He has the Junkyard Dog's face airbrushed on both the front and the back of his tights. Here's some trivia for you. This is the final WWF pay-per-view appearance for JYD.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah. Yep. And at this time, this was because he was going to show up in the NWA shortly after this and get fired and rehired by them like a million times within the next couple of years. So that's what JYD does after this. But by this time, JYD's coming out to Grab Them Cakes, which is on the wrestling album, if anybody has that. And I'll say this, man. Uncle Dave liked to call him the junk food dog at the time because he let himself go and he was quite hefty at this point. But the crowd freaking blew for him. He was one of them that always elicited a response no matter if he was going to have a junk match or not.
Junkyard Dog was over here in Madison Square Garden, but he was over any time I've ever seen him, especially in the 80s. So he may be the junk food dog at this time, but he was never really an athlete. And I think that's why that's what made this match here. You have the natural athlete, Rick Rude, no fat on his body, versus someone who the crowd can get behind, the everyman. A little fat on his body, but he can still whoop your ass, the Junkyard Dog.
And I was always a fan of his no matter what, but yeah, this was, I don't know. This was the original, like, to steal a line from Bruce Pritchard and say, the crowd blows, he does his entrance, his dance, the crowd's like, yeah, Junkyard Dog, woo! And then that damn bell had to ring,
Yeah. I mean, but they kept it short, 620, and I think that's why they put him with Rick Rude. I mean, Rick Rude was with Warrior a lot for the exact same reason. Rick Rude was the ring general every time he was in there.
Well, that's why Rick Rude eventually had to retire from a back injury, because he had to carry so many people through all these years. But this is yet another match where the heel jumped the babyface as soon as he gets in the ring. But this one actually doesn't pay off for Rude, because JYD makes a comeback right away. Rude sells getting hit between the legs, and it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. They have like compilations of him selling like atomic drops and low blows and everything, and it's amazing. But
yeah, there's a whole Twitter account dedicated to him selling atomic drops.
Yeah.
He's great wrestler. And I mean, like we mentioned before, like how influential he was. I mean, he was the first guy to use the airbrushing, and now you have RVD, you got Ryback, you have a few others throughout the years that do the airbrushing on the tights. But he kind of did the best, even though he was the first, getting the heat with not only JYD on the tights, but then Jake the Snake's wife on the tights.
Yep, because he goes up top to drop a fist on JYD, but before he does, he pulls his tights down to reveal a second pair of tights with the face of Cheryl Roberts on them. That's, as you said, Jake the Snake Roberts' wife. As soon as he does I don't know if this was a botch, like if JYD was supposed to move, or if Jake missed his cue, or what, because he jumps off, lands on his feet, and just kind of like puts a fist into JYD's face. But, he made it work. And then Jake runs in, he attacks Rude and gets JYD disqualified. And then he apologizes to Dog after doing that. Uncle Dave said that this match was terrible and it was all Dog's fault. He also notes that it should have been negative stars, but the Jake the Snake run-in was good. He gave it a dud. I gave it 1 star for effort. Probably just because I like these guys.
Maybe I'm lenient. I'm giving it a 2. I watched this match and I don't remember anything wrong with it. I mean, you got 4 legends out there working together: Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan, Junkyard Dog, Jake the Snake. I mean, it took me back to Blockbuster VHSs,
Yeah, I try not to let nostalgia play into the match ratings. It's kind of hard sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. There was nothing botched except for, I don't know if that diving fist was supposed to happen or not, but it wasn't necessarily anything was botched. It's just, it was blah. I don't think it deserved a dud. I thought that was kind of like a little harsh, but either way. Next, we go backstage again to the back. We got Mean Gene Okerlund. He's backstage with the Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Hart. And Jimmy says that, here's where I got to break out my Jimmy Hart impression. Brutus Beefcake, you're an idiot, baby. You're not one to wrestle the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, baby. That's why you're not here tonight, daddy. Ha ha ha. And he's got the freaking pompadour for the night. Did you notice he did that with his hair?
Oh, yeah. These two are hilarious. These two are Memphis Wrestling got the call up to go up to the big time, and these two guys personified.
Yep. Yeah, that's for damn sure. And then Honky Tonk Man says that he'll defend that title in open challenge tonight, baby. And Mean Gene tries to tell him, he's like, well, your opponent and I. No, don't tell me, baby. I won't be surprised. I'm the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, baby. The Honky Tonk Man. Mm-hmm. And the crowd is actually into this. Like, they legitimately hated the Honky Tonk Man, and you could hear them booing the hell out of him. So that was, it's cool. He got actual heat for a wrestler. And I wasn't a big Honky Tonk Man fan. I thought he was, I'm sure at the time I would have thought he was a cool heel or whatever, but I don't know. I was never really a fan. Speaking of people I was not a fan of, up next, we got the Bolsheviks, which is a team of Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov. They are with their manager, Slick. They are taking on the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian and the Warlord, with the Baron. This one went just shy of 5.5 minutes. I think it's the second shortest match on the card. We'll get to the shortest match. Is it just me, or does Slick just look like way out of place with the Bolsheviks?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was, I mean, pretty random combination here, but it definitely got a lot of heat. Just like you mentioned with the last tag team match, people just wanted to cheer USA, and these three guys definitely gave them an excuse to do it.
Yeah. I was like, man, did they just, throw all the, cause they had a ton of managers back here. Did they just throw the names of all the managers into a hat and they pulled one out, was like, all right, you're the Bolsheviks. just whatever. This one made me laugh, and it made me laugh especially because my father said something like this, and it stuck with me my entire life. Slick called the crowd illiterate, which means they don't know how to read or write, for not knowing that they need to stand on their feet for the Russian national anthem. So, poor choice of words. I just, like, you didn't mean illiterate, right? You meant stupid. He was trying to use a big word, so I get it. I don't think I've ever heard the Powers of Pain theme before, and if I did, I don't remember it. But to me, it kind of sounded like the instrumental for like a Genesis or Phil Collins song.
Yeah. I mean, Powers of Pain, and even we're going to see later with Demolition. The Road Warriors were so popular that people were just chomping at the bits to rip them off. And I do like. I respect Powers of Pain, kind of like Brutus Beefcake. They've always had the jobs, and they still wrestle even to this day, or up until the COVID era. Yeah. They wrestled for IWA Mid-South. They wrestled in a tag match against Nick Gage, I remember.
My God.
Yeah.
You're not making me want to watch this at all.
I'm not saying respect. They're still taking bookings, and they're still yoked. They have not stopped working out. But other than that, they're, like you said, then the bell rings.
Yeah. Well, my favorite Warlord story is he asked, allegedly, this is a story that's been passed around for years, but I guess he asked Curt Hennig to put steroids in him, and he bent over and he had him put the needle in his butt, and allegedly Curt Hennig did that, and it went squirting out of his butt across the room, and he patted him on the back and said, "I think you're full, big man." But at this event, I've never seen it this bad. I know they said they were clearly a ripoff of the Road Warriors. They were in full Road Warrior cosplay here. They had the black tights with their name in red letters down the side. They had similar face paint. They had crazy hairstyles and mohawks, like full on Road Warriors. But again, not to overuse this, but then the damn bell had to ring. This was the first pay-per-view appearance for the Barbarian and the Warlord, and the only pay-per-view appearance for the Baron, which, for those of you that don't know, is Baron von Raschke in face paint with a hood on.
Yeah, I'd never seen this before. I was shocked to see I couldn't really make heads or tails of what I was even seeing. But that makes sense. It was the only pay-per-view appearance here.
It took me a minute because I was like, "Who the hell is the Baron?" And I'm staring at him when he was on camera, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Baron von Raschke." So there you go. But Warlord nails a belly-to-belly suplex at one point, which Gorilla Monsoon calls a gut-wrench suplex. Look, for nostalgia purposes, I absolutely love Gorilla Monsoon, but he was awful at calling moves. In the end, the Powers of Pain nailed a double shoulder tackle onto Boris Zukov, and then Warlord hit a power slam, and then Barbarian finished him off with a flying headbutt for the win. Uncle Dave notes how ice cold that the Powers of Pain have been now that the WWF fans have finally figured out that they're not the Road Warriors. Harsh.
Yeah. I mean, they tried their best to fool the people in the nosebleeds, but I think, push comes to shove, they can tell. I definitely preferred Barbarian in Nitro more so than his first run in the WWE when he was teaming up, with Ming and everything. So I had fond memories of that. But Powers of Pain, I respect him, but I don't really. They don't do it for me.
Right. Yeah. Well, Uncle Dave only gave this a half a star. I gave it 1.5 stars.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm going with maybe like a 1.25.
Yeah. It wasn't great, but it was a 5.5-minute match. It wasn't, like, ugly. So, it was what it was. I wasn't a big fan of anybody in this match.
We did sink to new lows, just like the Raw numbers with this next segment.
Yeah, this next segment, and don't get me wrong, this was a huge thing at the time, but this was like a replacement of a replacement. What we're talking about is the Brother Love show. I just got to point this out. Shout out to Greg, because he would have pointed it out if he was here. That sweet ass mullet on Bruce Pritchard. That is a mom and dad are gone for the weekend, and we got a fridge full of beer party in the back mullet.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Bruce Pritchard, but I'm credit where credit is due. That mullet is bodacious.
Hell yeah, it is. Well, according to Bruce, the original plan was to have Jessica Hahn, which I can't remember who Jessica Hahn was at the time. I think she slept with somebody who was in Playboy. I don't remember. I didn't really look it up, but he explains it on his podcast. But when that fell through, he wanted to have Ric Flair. Well, that fell through. He re-signed with the NWA. So, as a guest on the Brother Love show, who do they get? Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Because reasons. I don't know. But
well, yeah, it's very telling that you see that Brother Love never thought to just not have himself on the show.
Yeah, well, I will say this. As much as this segment kind of sucked, and we are crapping on it, Brother Love was over, and he had a ton of heat back during this time. Because this was a time when, especially in the South, they're like, oh, he's mocking the Baptist preacher down the road. And he literally got death threats. So he got a ton of heat, man. To the point of where he said Andre the Giant was friends with Bruce, but he hated Brother Love. So that's funny. As much as I was like, I don't know, man. As a kid, I loved Hacksaw Jim Duggan. As an adult, having to watch his matches, I'm like, bleh. But the crowd frickin' blew when Duggan came out.
Oh, yeah.
And this segment went off the rails right away, because Duggan insulted Brother Love, and then Brother Love referred to Hacksaw as Brother Dugan. And it came down to an argument of, who's the biggest patriot for their country? Jim Duggan for America, or Dino Bravo for Canada? Because I guess those are the two choices. It finally took Duggan threatening to sodomize Brother Love with his 2x4 for Brother Love to hightail it out of there, and the segment to mercifully end. I don't know, man. It was what it was. Blah. But speaking of it was what it was, up next we get the Honky Tonk Man, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time up to that point. He's with Jimmy Hart, the Colonel, and he's defending the Intercontinental title. Well, let's get into this first part. The booking swapped from Beefcake, because apparently it was going to be Beefcake in the spot, but it came after boxes for the Coliseum Home Video VHS release were printed early and kind of leaked. And on the boxes it said Brutus would be the challenger for the Honky Tonk Man. So they swapped it and did a swerve, and they put a sticker over it that said the Ultimate Warrior was a challenger. The main reason, I guess, for the change to the match was because, according to an interview from 2005, Beefcake claimed that the Warrior threatened to leave the WWF if he didn't get a title shot. So Beefcake stepped aside and made the best of it, which resulted in this storyline injury that we talked about earlier.
Beefcake complaining about backstage politics is kind of ironic there.
Yeah, those who live in glass houses probably shouldn't throw stones, but I mean, whatever. I don't know if
I don't know if that's true or not. It definitely set up the big match between Hogan and Warrior, right? That was 89, right, for WrestleMania.
Yep, WrestleMania 6. Or no, I'm sorry, it was 1990.
Oh, okay. Was Warrior was the champion all the way up until that point?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. I mean, that makes this pretty historic. I think it's pretty cool how he just comes out and just is super fucking over. I mean, I would have loved him when I was a kid. I definitely did love him when I was a kid, even when he came back and wrestled Triple H in that one random WrestleMania match.
Yeah, Lord.
Yeah, and then Honky Tonk Man is the perfect foil for someone who's just like this intergalactic warrior who flies down to Earth, goes to Madison Square Garden, and someone's ass takes the belt. I mean, you gotta love it.
Yep. Well, as soon as the Warriors music hit, the crowd went absolutely bananas. Then, by the way, this match went 31 seconds. When he won, they blew again. They blew the roof off MSG.
As if some of them actually thought that he was going to lose after he came out with that entrance.
Yeah, right. Well, Uncle Dave said he hated the, quote, match itself, but he did say that from a booking standpoint, it's the best thing on the show. He said from a wrestling standpoint, however, he thought the Warrior running out to squash Honky Tonk Man blew him up so bad that he thought we'd get the first case of a man giving birth on national TV. What the F? He gave it negative half a star. I gave it a dud just because it's not a match, really. I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 30-second squash. I will say this, I guess nobody knew up until this point how poorly trained the Ultimate Warrior was. And by that, I mean, he did that gorilla press slam all the time. Well, apparently, because when you grab the guy, you grab him by the, where the neck meets the chest, and you grab him by the inner thigh, and you pick him up. Well, he's goozling them by the throat and squeezing their nuts and picking them up. And they get to the back, and Honky Tonk Man told him, or Wayne Ferris, I should say, told him, he's like, you squeeze my nuts one more frickin' time, I'm pulling my gun out and shooting you. So that was because the jobbers that he'd been squashing up until that point were not going to complain about the star, you know? So they had no idea. He didn't even know how to do a proper press slam until Honky Tonk Man spoke up.
Honky Tonk Man definitely isn't one to not complain over the years if you've ever heard a shoot interview, so I'm not surprised that he'll be the first and the last one to complain about something.
Hell yeah. Him and...
But I love it.
Him and King Kong Bundy, man. You talk about bitter old men. Rest in peace, King Kong Bundy, but you know what I mean. There was an intermission here where the WWF apparently advertised the upcoming Sugar Ray Leonard boxing fight on pay-per-view, and that's because Vince McMahon was heavily invested in it. And then to bring us back into the show, they play the opening promo package again, but I didn't mind seeing it again because of the old school SummerSlam theme. It's pretty badass. That, by the way, I don't know if you caught that, but after the intermission, they started making a lot of references to Sugar Ray. So,
for sure.
Yeah, if you hear that on the show, that's why. When we come back from intermission, though, Bobby the Brain Heenan bursts into the commentary area up on a balcony about a mile away from the ring to tell everybody what the megabucks are supposedly doing, which is counting money and reading the Wall Street Journal.
The giant Wall Street Journal is pretty funny.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Like, stocks look good today. But the crowd is chanting Weasel so loudly you can barely hear Heenan. And apparently he gets on commentary to join Monsoon and Graham for the next match, which was fine. I think I would have much preferred Bobby Heenan over superstar Billy Graham, I'll say that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Don Moroch versus Dino Bravo.
With Frenchie Martin in his corner. Yeah, this one went for 5.5 minutes. This is the final pay-per-view appearance for the magnificent Don Morocco, as he was fired shortly after the show.
Oh, okay. Dino Bravo, he was the one in that Dark Side of the Ring show, right? He was, he had a pass as well.
Yeah, I got a whole new perspective on Dino Bravo after watching that episode. So
yeah, of course.
We pump it or pimp it, whatever, on the podcast all the time. I definitely recommend Dark Side of the Ring. It's a
fantastic series. If anybody has a way to watch it, definitely go do it. It's on Vice. Tim White is the referee for this match. I just had to point that out because that's not wise, Mr. White. Do you remember that, where he kept killing himself or trying to kill himself?
Tim White?
Yeah, it was skits. Like, they would do these skits all the time. It was after he got injured so badly that he couldn't referee anymore, and they kept doing these little skits where Josh Matthews would go to interview him, and he would like try to hang himself or shoot himself, and Matthews would be like, Mr. White, that's not wise. That's not wise, Mr. White.
Mr. White, that's not wise. Mr. White, that's definitely not wise.
No, I do not remember that. I'm a fan of Tim White's wrestling. I'm glad they found something for him to do when he couldn't rep anymore. That's hilarious. Josh Matthews,
he's
is like a white
commentator. I don't know how you feel about it. Do you watch Impact?
I watched Slammiversary. I wasn't impressed by Josh Matthews.
No. You got Don Callis sitting next to him, which is like having a statue sitting next to a dried turd.
It's pretty interesting though. Josh Matthews originally came into the wrestling industry as a loser on the first Tough Enough. And he just kept making it work. And here he is still to this day, over 20 years later, with a job in wrestling.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I can crap on him all I want, but yeah, A, he has a job, and B, he's beating all of us because he's married to Madison Rayne. So.
Oh, really? Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yep. He is, he's married to Madison Rayne. So screw you, Josh Matthews. I hate you. But
yeah, lost Tough Enough, wanted life.
Right. Monsoon, during this match, tells the Canadian Frenchie Martin to, quote, go back to France or wherever you're from, because he's holding up a sign that says USA is not okay. In the end, the referee gets bumped when Morocco goes for a scoop slam, and Dino kicked him by accident. But then Dino slips behind Morocco and nails a side slam for the win. Kind of blah. This was boring and failed. To me, it felt way longer than it actually was. Uncle Dave called this match, quote, pathetic, and said that both guys were horribly blown up, but the match might have been decent if anyone had cared about the match, which they didn't. What a dick. But he gave this a dud. I gave it a 1.5 stars.
I'm going with a 0.4, 0.5.
Yeah.
Awful match. No one cared. Dave was right. No one cared. I'm amongst them. I don't care.
Right. Well, next up we get a Sean Mooney sighting. He's making his WWF pay-per-view debut. He's backstage interviewing Jesse the Body Ventura. He says that Ventura is going to be the ring enforcer, or the special guest referee, I should say, for the main event. And he's already tainted because he's accepted money from the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. We'll get to that later. Ventura says that he accepted the money as a gift to him from the $1 Million Man, but he's going to be fair and official in the main event. So
yeah, I was unfamiliar with it before watching it for the show, and what an 80s storyline here in the main event.
Oh yeah, it's typical Ted DiBiase stuff. It was great. I don't know. I dug it. It was one of them that hits you in the feels, you know. And I don't care what anybody says. I loved everything Jesse Ventura did. I just freaking loved it. Couldn't help myself. But also, Billy Graham was taking shots at Jesse Ventura on commentary because there was like actual heat, because Jesse the Body Ventura basically wholesale ripped his gimmick off of Graham.
Oh, for sure.
Down to, if you look at what Graham is wearing, it looks like he got it out of Ventura's closet, or Ventura got his outfits out of Graham's closet, either or.
I mean, Superstar Billy Graham got ripped off a bunch. I mean, you can even link what Hogan was doing to Superstar Billy Graham, what Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner was doing to Superstar Billy Graham. Yeah, like it's all over the place. Like, he was the first, like, obviously roided up, full of himself, quasi-flamboyant superstar, man. He was it. He did it first. You can't deny it.
And Hogan even started wearing tie-dye later on in his career, like Graham.
And the feather boas.
Yep. So he kept going back to that that well of Billy Graham over and over. So, and there for a while, Austin Aries, when he was Austin Starr, was also somewhat like him.
Of course,
This next match was honestly my favorite tag match on the card. Not because, I mean, it may not have been technically the best when you go in, when you're working in that first match we talked about, but it was Demolition, Axe and Smash with both Mr. Fuji and Jimmy Hart. They're defending the WWF Tag Team titles against the Hart Foundation of Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. They go for just shy of 10 minutes. The crowd blew up for the Hart Foundation. I just realized watching this match, I have Jack's figures of all of Demolition and the Hart Foundation all in these particular outfits.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so to use my phrase from the podcast, I have a Jack's figure of them. But the finish comes when Mr. Fuji distracts Jim Neidhart and the referee so that Jimmy Hart could toss his megaphone into the ring to Axe, and he nails Bret in the back with it and drapes Smash's arm over Bret's body for the pinfall victory. I enjoyed this match because I absolutely love both of these teams. I'll never have a negative word to say about either one of them. I met Demolition at WrestleCon 2018, and it was like a highlight of my life. Uncle Dave said, quote, "Finish was decent, but the match was completely boring." He gave it 1.5 stars. I gave it 2.5 stars. What say you?
I wouldn't say the match was boring, but it definitely peaked at the finish. I'm giving it 2 stars. One of my favorite matches, top 3 favorite matches of the evening.
Yeah, and it's not a crowded list of great matches on this show, but it was fine.
A lot of tag matches.
Yeah, three tag matches on this card. Well, 4 with the main event.
The main event.
Yeah, and it was rare during this era for a tag match to close the show. I mean, other than, you had WrestleMania 1 and SummerSlam 1, both of them tag matches involving Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you got to put a lot of things around him to hopefully give the rub to, because Hogan was definitely over. You could have had Hogan wrestle a blow-up doll at this point.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we'll get into some of his reactions later on, but Mean Gene Okerlund's in the locker room yet again with Jimmy Hart, Honky Tonk Man, the Fabulous Rougeaus, and Dino Bravo. Basically every heel on the card.
Honky Tonk Man was great here.
Oh yeah, this was fantastic, man. I became more of a fan of his after watching this, because he's screaming, yelling, throwing stuff, and he's saying, "I said I'd fight anybody, but I didn't say I'd fight the Warrior. They sent a Warrior after me." And then he says that if it's the last thing he ever does, he's getting his belt back. To which I wanted to go back again. I wanted to hop in my DeLorean, buy a ticket, or go back to 1988, buy a ticket, go to the show, and tell him, "God dang it, pal, it's not a belt, it's a championship."
Huh.
Anyway, we get this frickin' match up next, man. It's the Big Boss Man with Slick in his corner. He's taking on Koko Beware. It was just shy of 6 minutes. This was the first WWF pay-per-view appearance for the Big Boss Man. When Pile Driver hit the speakers and Koko Beware comes out, the crowd went mild. I had not heard such a stone-cold reception for anybody all night. I mean, am I wrong with that?
No, you're absolutely right. There was I feel like after the Hart Foundation match, everybody just wanted to see the main event, and the other matches suffered from it.
Yeah, this one was just, man, I don't know. Slick distracted Koko so that Boss Man could jump him from behind. Boss Man beat him with a Boss Man slam. Not a terrible 6-minute match, just wasn't great. After the match, Boss Man clocked Koko with his nightstick right in the ribs. Uncle Dave said that this was the best of the squash matches, and he gave it 1 3/4 stars. I just rounded up at 2 stars. What say you?
I'm going lower than Dave. I'm saying 1. I think that this card would have done a lot better if they just didn't do this match at all.
Yeah. This should have been on Superstars of Wrestling.
Yeah, something like that. I feel like it was a short show, but it should have been shorter, because the Brother Love in this was something that really didn't do anything for me. they could have 86'd it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't totally disagree. Got to get Big Bubba on the card, though, man.
And Coco Beware, Hall of Famer here.
Hell yeah. Him and Frankie.
He's like the go-to reference if someone's like, is he a Hall of Famer? Is she a Hall of Famer? People go, well, Coco Beware's a Hall of Famer. He's like the gatekeeper of the lower end of the Hall of Fame.
I guess so, man. Oh, but Sean Mooney is backstage. He's in the locker room with Ultimate Warrior, and he's flanked by Junkyard Dog, Don Morocco, the British Bulldogs. He's in the locker room with all the baby faces, basically. And Warrior said, and I quote, I had to write down this promo word for word, just because I'll give you the option. Should I do my Warrior impression, or should I read it seriously, just like as serious as can be?
I think we should just read it seriously to hear the ridiculous nature of his words.
Okay, that's a good call. I agree. Here we go. He said, quote, Honky Tonk Man, you thought it was like something out of a comic book, brother, but we're talking about real life. Remember what I just said before I continue. But anyway, moving on from that real life comment. I was sitting in parts unknown, waiting for the next spaceship to higher planes, when the lightning bolts came down from the sky, and the Warriors spoke, and they said, make it to the garden. Well, the Ultimate Warrior showed, and Honky Tonk Man, you gave the challenge, and the Ultimate Warrior and all the little warriors, with all their painted faces, rose to the challenge, and they conquered. I've taken the little warriors through all the darkness and all the pain. And Honky Tonk Man, if you want a piece of me, or anybody thinks that they can take on the Warriors, I'm not hard to find. I'll be on the next spaceship to parts unknown. End quote. God dang it. What the? First of all, what peyote was he smoking, man? I
mean, I don't know, New York City in the 80s, you could probably get a lot of stuff.
That is very true. And where the hell is Parts Unknown? I just want to know where it's at.
Oh, it's on Know Your Old Boulevard. You just keep heading down.
Yeah, it's maybe if you see the SmackDown Hotel, you just keep walking.
Yeah, exactly.
Mother of God, just this promo was absolute, just bonkers. That was just like a stupid promo. I know, shocker, but. Speaking of stupid and out of place, next we got Hercules taking on Jake the Snake Roberts. This went on for 10 minutes, 6 seconds. I will say the crowd absolutely blew their crap for Jake.
Have you ever seen the Warlord and Hercules in the same place?
No. Holy crap. I was completely bored out of my mind during this match until the very end. Mm-hmm. The match ends with... Yeah, the match ends with Jake the Snake slipping out of a scoop slam attempt, nailing the DDT, covering him for the pinfall victory. And then after the match, he throws Damien on top of Hercules. You know, shocker. Uncle Dave said that this match was dull and deathly slow, but Herc still managed to get blown up. He gave it 1 1/4 star.
These two guys out there. They were sending these two guys out there at the time to maybe bring the crowd down before the main event. But
oh, God.
That's something they've always tried to do, but I'm always like, why did they have, like, to bring the crowd down at all, you know?
Yeah, this was the final piss break before the main event, I guess. I don't know. It just went on too long. But Uncle Dave gave it 1 1/4 star. I gave it 1 1/2 star. What say you?
I'd have to agree with you. 1 1/2 star, poorly positioned.
Yeah, it's blah. You talk about things that could have been left off the show.
We'll return after these messages.
Now, back to our program.
A video
show us down, though. You got the main event here.
Oh, yeah. Finally, we are here at the main event. A video is shown from a previous wrestling challenge, which is another show besides Superstars of Wrestling, for those of you that don't know. But Andre the Giant distracted Randy Savage, allowing Ted DiBiase to jump him, and they beat him up. Savage then challenged Andre and Ted to a tag team match at SummerSlam, and Bobby Heenan accepted for his clients. And they also announced that Jesse the Body Ventura would be the guest referee, all on the same show. On another show, Macho Man introduces his tag team partner. He says he's the greatest tag team partner you could ever ask for. And Hulk Hogan comes out, and the crowd threw the babies in the air. They absolutely loved Hogan. Later on the Brother Love show, Brother Love talks down to Jesse Ventura, claiming that he's scared of Andre the Giant. Ventura goes off on Brother Love, and he finally gets interrupted by Andre, who threatened him, and then Ted DiBiase, who stuffs money in his pocket, kind of to bribe him, and that's what they were referring to earlier in the show. There you go. That sets up for our main event. It is the Mega Bucks, Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase, with Bobby Heenan and Virgil in their corner. They are taking on the Mega Powers, which was Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, with Miss Elizabeth in their corner. This was just shy of 14 minutes. And obviously, I mean, with the sold-out MSG, we know Virgil drew the house.
Oh, yeah. Made that money.
Yep, him and his meat sauce. Oh, man. But the Mega Bucks come out first to no music whatsoever, which confused me. But I was shocked that I realized that Savage was the champion here, but given how things always kind of worked out in the WWF, I was shocked about this. They came out to Macho Man's theme. Were you shocked by that at all, or were you just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, that's the way it is?
I didn't, I guess I overlooked it, I have to say.
It was something that really stuck out to me, just because it was like, I mean, at WrestleMania 5, it was written that apparently Macho Man was pissed off about this. Macho Man was going into WrestleMania 5 as the champion, but he still had to come out first so that Hogan could come out second and get the big reaction. And that was something I didn't even think about until that was pointed out. And Jesse Ventura points it out on commentary. He's like, why is the champion coming out first? Yeah, so just a little something.
Where like if you're not into wrestling or watch multiple shows, you just overlook. That's a big deal. Like that you work your whole career to become the world champion, and when you do it, you want to come out last. You want all the little nuances that you get from the title. Yeah, I mean, JR even talks about when he was booking house shows during the Attitude Era, and he'd put Stone Cold in a match, like the opening match or the match before intermission or something. And Hulk Hogan liked going before intermission so that he could get back for, before room service cut off at the hotel. But he would try doing that for Austin, and Austin would get pissed, and he's like, why am I on before intermission? And he's like, well, I'm, trying to hook you up so you can get out of here. He's like, no, I worked my whole career to go on last. I want to go on last. And he's like, all right, I'll rebook the card. Nice. Yeah. But when the Mega Powers get dumped to the outside at the end of the match, to distract Jesse Ventura and the Mega Bucks, Miss Elizabeth takes off her skirt to reveal it wasn't quite what Macho Man had built it up to be, but she was wearing a red swimsuit bottom. Still pretty hot, especially for 1988. Yep, she Deborah the old dumper here. Yeah. This was some good stuff, but it was not what Macho Man, because Macho Man kept talking about the itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini, and that was not it. So I mean, it was fine. But the Mega Powers get back in, they dump Andre to the outside, and then they hit a elbow drop, leg drop combo on DiBiase for the win. And then after that, it was Hulk and Macho must pose. And they played Real American. The crowd throws the babies in the air. Uncle Dave thought that DiBiase looked great, but he hoped that he saved his money from the main event because that time of his career is done. Ouch. I will say this, I don't think he was wrong, because I don't think DiBiase really main evented much more after this. Uncle Dave gave this 2 3/4 stars. I gave it a solid 3 stars. What say you? Oh, I would say this is a 3.75, 3 3/4 stars match. Of course, it wasn't it wasn't a Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat classic, but it wasn't trying to be that. It was perfect for what it was trying to be. The best, good main event, good storyline, had the MSG crowd hooked. Yeah, I mean, you can't complain about this main event. One match show, and they delivered on that one match.
Yeah, I think I boosted it to 3 stars, not because it was like super technical or whatever, but it was, all in all, I thought it delivered on all of its promises. It was exciting. The crowd was into it, and it was a spectacle. And for Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, well, Macho Man could have long, entertaining matches, but for Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant to be in a match that went for 14 minutes and I wasn't bored at all, that's an accomplishment, man.
We'll return after these messages.
Now, back to our program.
Final ratings of the show. I will say IMDb gave the show overall a 7.1 out of 10. CageMatch.net gave it a 5.29 out of 10. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. What say you?
Out of 10, I'm going to have to go, like 6. Go a little lower because, there's a lot of filler. It was a short show that felt real long.
Yeah,
a lot of
2.5 hours.
Yeah. I was to say Raw feels long.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours, but this felt longer than the normal Raw.
Right. And the show, like we said, the main event was great, and that's what they built it on. But again, it was stuff like, if anybody goes in the archives and listens to our review of like Clash of the Champions 6, where the main event was the hour-long classic between Flair and Steamboat, but the rest of the show sucked. Like, we're not going to give the show a great rating because the main event was good. If the rest of the show sucked up until the main event, and I don't think the show sucked up until the main event, but there was a lot of filler and a lot of crap, I will say. And that's another thing, like I was saying before, I don't rate it higher based on nostalgia, I don't think that's fair. But everybody has their own rating systems, but yeah, that's it, man. Anything else you want to say to wrap this show up?
Definitely enjoyed it. It's hard to go back and watch some of this stuff and not rate it on nostalgia for me. Like,
right.
It takes you back to the time that it took place, of course, but then also the time you originally watched it. Like, we were talking about the Blockbuster tapes and everything like that. And then to, like, just see, like, Jake the Snake, who's on AEW still to this day, kind of in more of his element. To see, like, Earl Hebner, who, I kind of know more from reffing a lot of, like, the Austin era matches and seeing him, right here on this show. It was just pretty cool to see. It was just took me back, and it's hard to not have nostalgia seep in when you're rating something like this. It was awesome to go back and do. Like I said, I focus more on current stuff a lot of the time, so this was really cool to go back and watch.
Yes, yeah, and that's why we always base our show on retro, and retro is, we try not to do anything that's more than 2 years young. We try to at least go back 2 years, but we try to stay back at least in the 90s. But, the newest show up until this month that we reviewed was Vengeance 2005. So, so we touch on some Ruthless Aggression era there. Real quick, if you go listen to Main Event Marks, we're available everywhere you can get podcasts. But for our August schedule, August 5th, we came out with SummerSlam 2015. August 12th, we're switching it up because we didn't want to just do straight SummerSlams all month. On August 12th, we got WCW Road Wild 1999. It was not a good show, but it was the final one that took place in Sturgis. And the main event was the red and yellow Hulk Hogan returning to take on Kevin Nash for the WCW title. And their careers were on the line, sort of. August 19th, we do SummerSlam 1998. And then August 26th, we're covering a show that is not on the WWE Network, but I did find a link online for it. It's ECW's Born to be Wired 1997, where it was a barbed wire rope match between Terry Funk and Sabu in the main event. So,
classic.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. Reg and I are not huge fans of ECW, but we do. occasionally, I'm not a big deathmatch or Extreme Rules kind of fan, but occasionally I like to see this kind of stuff. Not all the time, but once in a while. But that's our August. Oh, what?
That's a good one to watch, man. I mean, Terry Funk, definitely known for hardcore wrestling, but definitely brings out the more traditional side of wrestling that, you know, people enjoy.
We talk about him a little bit on our Wrestle War 89 episode. Go back and check that out in the archives, because I made a reference. I compared him to Chris Jericho in that episode, and I'm not going to say why and get into it now, but definitely go back and check that out. We talk about Funk because he did play a big part in Wrestle War 89, even though he's not on the card. But
for sure, and he's also on SummerSlam 98, which you're going to review.
Oh yeah, that's right. I only know 2 matches on the card. I haven't went back and looked at it yet, so it's coming up. Some Terry Funk. Again, you know, I will never not like Terry Funk.
I'm jealous of you reviewing that show. That's one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time.
Yeah, 98 was great. Had an amazing ladder match on it between The Rock and Triple H. So definitely looking forward to sitting down and watching that one here real soon.
Nice. But you have to check that one out.
Yeah. On social media, follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram. It's at @mainevent_marks. Or on Facebook, you can follow us at facebook.com/maineventmarkspod. We're obviously on YouTube right here. You can, you should probably subscribe to us, because if we get 100 subscribers, then we can get a custom URL, and I can quit telling you guys to search for us. You know, you can just type in whatever the custom URL is, and just boom, you're right there. We've got a lot of stuff on figures. We got bonus shows, lots and lots of stuff. If you're a figure collector and you like stuff like the Major Wrestling Figures Pod, you're going to like what we're bringing you on the channel. And like I said, bonus shows throughout the months as well. Thanks for joining me today, Jacob.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Anytime.
And one more time, what's your social media for them to get a hold of you?
Hit me up at JG Pro Wrestling on Twitter, at JG Pro Wrestling on SoundCloud. Check out Wrestling with Wrestling on YouTube if you want to hear my show, Curtain Jerkin. We review a thorough review of the first match on every show, as well as talk about the major happenings in wrestling today. That's going to be on pretty much YouTube for now, but coming out in August, it's going to be on any other platforms that you may listen to podcasts on.
Nice. Sounds great. Go check him out. Give him some love. And as always, subscribe and like and leave some reviews for this podcast, y'all. And we will see you later.
Peace.